All right, welcome to our Let's Learn to Play series on with Hot Lead and Cold Steel from Osprey Games. It's a blue book. It's a little book, but let's see if it's going to be a good book. It looks enjoyable. Watched some games online. They look like they're pretty good. So we'll give it a whirl and see what's up. This is basically, I'm just stalling while I am finishing up my Union troops. So then I got the Confederates basically where I want them, and I just need to add oh bang, I just keep it the wrong button. I just need to add on a few more Union regiments, get them to 11. I wouldn't even mind making it 12 for both, but this wouldn't be a fair fight by chance. If you can see, the Union is completely outnumbered here while their troops are being assembled over there, and the Confederates are massed up with 11 regiments against 3 Union infantry regiments. So that's a butt kicking, what we call down here in Kentucky. So looking at this game, it's of course American Civil War rules. It's based for 28 millimeter. So that is awesome, which is my favorite. I'm probably going to try it in Warlord Epic as well. It's modifiable, just like Regimental and Brigade Fire and Fury. Just have to bring a few more things onto the table of marking, who's in what kind of formation and casualties, because this is also another casualty removal system, just like Regimental Fire and Fury. So these two are similar, I think. For basing, they have all kinds of recommendations. I'll read those real quick. Basically, basing is relatively unimportant when playing 28 millimeter. We recommend that each infantry figure is based on a 20 by 20 base. I got mine on 25 by 25. For those of you who like to multi-base, use 4 figures on a 40 millimeter base or 6 figures on a 60 by 40. So you can do everything however you want, which is great, as long as you're consistent with your frontages for each unit, for each side, excuse me. Artillery, usually they recommend 2 on a base, which I have. And cavalry, you can do a 20 by 40, or you can do I have a 25 by 50 is what my cavalry is in. So that is the basing thing. And if you do want to play smaller scales, for 20 millimeter, they suggest using 66% of suggested measurements. For 12 to 15, you divide by 2 and use centimeters and use the same stuff, which is, I like that. That's kind of to keep it familiar. And then 6 to 10 millimeter, use 40% of suggested. Deployment, you can deploy with or without fog of war. They have some basic rules on that, how to hide stuff and bring stuff in off the table. And this game is basically stressed to have a good time. So they say it over and over again of have fun, use common sense, don't be a dweeb or don't be an idiot. Just be polite to each other. It's a game. It's going to be okay. I don't think this is not based for tournaments, for those of you who want to play tournament-based stuff, so that's not happening. Different types of units are your standard Civil War stuff. You have infantry, artillery, and cavalry. For unit quality, you have green, regular, and veteran. Green guys are little or no training or combat experience. Regular are properly drilled, some combat expertise, and veteran are expertly drilled veterans of several battles. Now there is some conflicting stuff that I found from just pre-reading the book. And let me just show you this one. So here, I'll bring this in front of you. Hopefully that's not blurry. You can see a number of figure stands for large, average, small, and tiny. And as we get into the casualties, you'll see as you take away casualties, your unit shrinks. So you should do it so if you either start off as an average or a large unit, or if you want to start as small, but every time you get 6 guys wiped out, which is how they come out in this one, you drop down a unit size, and then your stats will fall in consideration. So if you got this, and then if you look at farther back in the book, it's a little bit, it contradicts themselves a little bit. Now you've got a large unit with a 24 unit count. And this is, I'm going to follow the stuff on page 62 compared to the stuff earlier in the book. And just as a book, it's, you know, it's all Perry miniatures, great pictures, great stuff. Unit stats. I'll let you look at miniatures, not me reading a book. You've got size, move, shoot, melee, unit cohesion, I think it is, and then morale. Those are your average. And then type. And then you have special rules. So unit type is going to be either infantry, cavalry, or artillery. And then you're going to break it down into green, regular, or veteran. Size is either going to be large, average, small, tiny, or skirmish formation. I don't think I'm going to use skirmish formation. Maybe later, but not at first. Movement is in inches because I'm playing 28 millimeter. Shoot, the first number of dice. Sorry, the first number is the number of dice. Second number is the number what is needed to hit. And this is a D10 game, just like the other ones. This is, I did not plan this, but Regimental Fire and Fury and with Hot Lead and Cold Steel have some similarities. They both use 10-sided dice. They both have casualty removal. They're both based for the Civil War. There's probably more to it than that, but that's, at least of those, it might help me out a whole lot. Melee is the same as shoot. Basically, your first number is number of dice you roll. The second is a number of what you need to roll above or equal to hit. And as your unit shrinks, you will, as you get casualties, it'll become more and more difficult to, you roll less dice, you just have the same number to hit. So it's kind of, yeah, you know what I'm talking about. You know what's going on. UC is unit coherency, combined stat for both the number of hits a unit can take and fatigue penalty. Fatigue penalty will be explained later on. It's basically if you try to do a crazy move, you can take a fatigue penalty. A penalty if you do 3 moves, or after a hand-to-hand, both units will take a fatigue penalty. So that happens there. Morale is you have to roll over that to pass a morale test or bad things happen. We'll get into that later. And special rules is any special skills the unit has or equipment it might possess, which we'll see that later. This game is expandable from a brigade battle to a divisional battle to a corps battle. I don't know if it just, that's where it stops talking. I might even try an army level at some point with the epic stuff when I cover this with the smaller stuff. But that's what it's designed for. I think when you get into that, really super huge, it's going to take some time. But I think the system would be expandable into army base. They just kind of aren't sure if you're insane enough to paint that many guys. Brigades are commanded by... brigades are organized in divisions. Divisions could be as small as 2 brigades or as large as 4 brigades. Divisions are led by a major general. Finally, 2 or 3 divisions would make up a corps. A corps would also be commanded by major generals, and then beyond a corps is your big dog. So yeah, it mentions it. So you definitely could do an army if you wanted to get totally psycho. We'll just touch base on the basic, for this video, the sequence of play. So how to play is the title of this little part blurb here in the game round. Each game with Hot Lead and Cold Steel is played in rounds. A round consists of 1 turn for each side. So they're both in like the first turn. And then you each get to go. But there is a neat thing as you roll initiative each time, like you'll see in some other models. So if you lose one initiative but win the next one, you can basically go twice, which is kind of neat. The first thing you do is determine the number of aide-de-camps you have, and you'll roll a die, and we'll look at that later in the aide-de-camp. But you get a number of aide-de-camps, and you can dedicate them to a brigade commander to increase their chance of passing an order, or you can use that and to increase your initiative to try to seize the initiative. It'll add to your dice roll there. And you got after you determine initiative, you do the rally phase. Then there's an artillery phase, which is kind of neat. So it's like a preparatory bombardment phase from squad leader, where you can fire your guns before the shooting phase, and then you can advance behind that. That's kind of cool. But if your artillery fires in the artillery phase, it can't fire later in the shooting phase. After the artillery phase is the order phase. So you get a choice there. So it's kind of a tactical decision, which is neat. You get the order phase, or then you get the movement phase, then you get the shooting phase, and then you get the melee phase, and then it goes to the other turn. Game round phases is I'll just read this to you. Each turn, a commander-in-chief has a certain amount of ADCs, aide-de-camps, available. You can use these ADCs to help brigade pass an order test. At the start of the turn, determine how many ADCs are available. Your CNC will roll a D5, so just divide your 10-sider in half and add 1. Your CNC can use these ADCs to increase your chances of successfully issuing an order, as will be explained in the order phase. Both sides roll at the same time, which is kind of cool. And then increasing your ADCs that's for initiative. Then using your ADCs can increase your chances of winning. I'll keep going here. Determine initiative. Use the initiative system based on an I go, you go system, although each side finishes their turn completely before shifting to the opposite player. Players' roll determine who goes first for that round, as a round consists of both a Union and a Confederate turn. It may be possible for a player to move second on turn 1 and then start turn 2 as the first player, giving that player 2 consecutive turns. If you're in a firing range of your opponent, that can be quite advantageous. Yeah, blast them twice. We feel this adds another level of unpredictability to the game and forces players to think ahead, anticipate how the battle will unfold when you can take another turn directly, or whether your opponent will seize the initiative. To see which side goes first, roll a d10 per side. The higher score grabs the initiative. I guess if you tie, you roll again. Maybe that'll show up later. I didn't see that one. There are moments in the battle when the odds are... This is seizing the initiative. There are moments in a battle when the odds are against you, when the fresh brigade you just committed to the battle simply has to drive the enemy away from the hill, or when your line is wavering. You really need those final reserves to stem the tide. In these cases, we feel appropriate for players to try to seize the initiative. In order to seize the initiative, each side may use up some or all their ADCs to add to their score for initiative. That means you will have fewer ADCs to use during the order phase, the responsibility of command. It's a little bit of drama. Players may secretly choose how many, if any, ADCs they will use to seize the initiative before the sides roll for initiative. Each side adds their ADC to their initiative score before comparing results. It is entirely optional to use ADCs in this way. This may turn into a bit of a bluffing, but often commanders had to be bold and bluff their way to victory. Kind of get a little bit of a fun to it in that thing. Okay. Let me look to see if I missed it. I don't know what happens with draws on initiative. You probably have to roll again. Yeah, it looks like if you get a draw on the initiative roll, you roll again. Which is kind of, I don't see anything that counters that in my initial scan. If I see it later on, I'll have it in one of the following videos. They break down the rally phase, the artillery phase, the order phase, the movement phase, the shooting phase, the melee phase, and that'll be basically the subject of our following videos. I will probably do the order phase and the movement phase together, That'll touch on some formations and stuff. I'll do the artillery phase and the shooting phase together, and then we'll do the charge and the melee phase together, and that'll be it. There is a section called Victory and Defeat. When the game is over, when is the game over? When is an army victorious and when is it defeated? In real wars, when an army can no longer fight on, it is defeated. In miniature wargaming, however, matters of victory and defeat are not always quite as straightforward. In certain scenarios, for example, it is important to hold on to a key objective instead of causing the most damage to the enemy. There are always those game nights where an army of one of the many players is virtually annihilated due to some bad dice rolling. Those types of results are rare, though. So how can players decide who has been victorious and who will retreat from the table? We have come up with the following suggestions and have made a distinction between one-off games and historical scenarios. In one-off games, when players have two equally sized armies, which I'm going to be doing a lot of, but I'm going to do some scenarios too. So, the player who loses more than half of their units first loses the game. If both players lose an equal number of units at the end of the same round, the game is considered a draw. Players should agree on a certain number of turns to play before a game starts. That's important too. Historical scenarios work slightly different because the players are replaying actual battles and are encouraged to recreate the tactical conditions of those battles. For example, the Union right wing was ordered to destroy the Confederate left flank during the Battle of Antietam Creek on 17 September 1862. Driving the Confederate forces away from Dunkirk Church area, therefore could be a victory condition for Union players. There's a good amount of published material in terms of the American Civil War scenarios the players can find. We've also provided players with some historical scenarios later in this book, they do have the Battle of Perryville in the back of this book, which is awesome, which is right down the road for me, which is perfect. We've also provided players with some historical scenarios later in the book with specific victory conditions. Each scenario describes what players need to do to win the game. There are several game principles that we feel are important to highlight. Obviously, destruction of the enemy can also be an objective in certain games, but capturing specific objectives is key in historical scenarios. Certain landmarks and geographical features fall into categories of objectives. Objectives can be claimed when a unit is within 6 inches of the objective and no enemy troops are within 6 inches. Only brigades or batteries can claim objectives. Brigades and batteries that have suffered 50% or more casualties are no longer considered scoring troops when it comes to objectives. Certain objectives are worth more victory points than others. The scenario in the books detail those victory conditions. Players who have designed their own historical scenarios, which I will do, are free to assign victory points as they see fit. When destruction of troops is described as an objective, victory points are scored within 50% or more of those units have been destroyed. Although brigades and batteries that have suffered 50% or more casualties are no longer considered scoring units for objective, they may still fight on until the morale of the individual unit breaks and they are forced to fight. All right, so I'm going to stop right there. We'll do ordering phase and movement phase next. I'll pick up this camera and hopefully it doesn't freak out. Hopefully you just kind of cool looking at troops on the table. Go over there and look at the Confederates. I'm still practicing with this particular camera. Oh, my wife's calling. 1 second. All right, perfect time. My wife was calling me to tell me to head to the soccer field and pick up my second youngest daughter. So just looking at the 3 brigades so far I've got of the Confederate Army while I work over there ever so diligently on my Union troops. Maybe about 30% painted. Got maybe 25. I don't want to lie to you guys. And yeah, so it's looking cool. I'm excited about doing this. This project is definitely taking a lot of time, but I'm pretty pumped up about it. So, and then the next one's just going to be awesome with the epic stuff. But I'm kind of got laser vision right now. I'm laser focused, so I've kind of forgot about other stuff right now while I'm just trying to get these troops into a battle. So I apologize I haven't done anything else yet. I keep wanting to do it, but these quick little videos on to these tutorials is kind of fun, and also gives me a chance to practice with this gimbal a little bit, so it's not a total and utter train wreck when I get into filming battle reports with it. Okay, well that's it. So hang in there. Shortly we'll get the orders and movement phase for this. This will be a lot faster for me, I think, because it's a much smaller set of rules compared to Regimental Fire and Fury. The blue books usually are, from what I know, are pretty quick and down and dirty. And yeah, so and then we'll at some point when I get the Union done, we'll have a little trial game of Regimental Fire and Fury, and then a trial game of with Hot Lead and Cold Steel. And it'll just continue to grow, and then I'll be able to take a little break from Civil War painting and do some other stuff too, which is one of the best things about this hobby, in my opinion. Is just one day you could be painting Civil War, American Civil War troops, and then you're painting sci-fi something, or mech BattleTech, or you can go and do the medieval stuff. So yeah, that's what I like. It's fun, and thanks for joining me on this journey. Okay, I'm just starting to play with this a little bit just to have a little bit of fun. Okay, talk to you soon, guys. You're awesome. Take care. Bye.